Today I'm going to read you a story. Sugar Camp. Are you ready? Yeah. Sugar is sweet. But you must brush your teeth if you eat your sugar. Brush. Sugar Camp. If every sugar maple seed become a maple tree, what a lot of maple syrup there'd be for you and me. When the deep winter snow starts melting in the woods and over the rocks and under the thinning ice of the streams, the water starts trickling. That's the time to go looking for sugar trees. At the first touch of spring, the sap comes up from the roots. Cold and clear, the sap starts running in the sugar maples. It shows first it tear-like drops on the ends of the twigs. Before there were factories and trains, before there were automobiles and planes, maple sugar time was happy time in the cold north. Boys and girls lived on farms, waited for it in the excited way that you wait now for Christmas. Here's how it was at the Langford farm. Father hitched horses for a big sled laden with wooden buckets and an enormous iron cooking pot. There was just enough room left on the sled for people. Away they all went with bells jingling, with the snow bank high at the sides of the road, and the dog running along behind the sled. They all went to the maple sugar woods. In the woods, the big boys and the men set up the sugar camp. Then they moved around, boring holes in the maple tree. They pushed hollow wooden spouts inside the holes. Drip, drip, drip. With a slow drip, the maple sap started running out. Becky, the littlest one, put her mouth to a spout and caught the first cold drops. On the end of her tongue, she looked up surprised. It doesn't taste like a maple syrup. It won't, her big brother said, until it gets boiled down. What's boiled down mean? You'll find it out. They slept that night at the sugar camp, the whole family, some in the hay on the sled, and some wrapped in blankets and fur robes and comforters on pine boughs that had been caught and placed on top of the snow. All night long they could hear the drip, drip, drip of maple sap in the wooden buckets. And once far away they heard a wolf howl, and once close by them they heard an owl. In the morning, with the sun shining orange-red between the bare black trees' branches, the men took down the buckets full of maple sap. They all emptied the buckets buckets into the big iron cooking pot. Dry wood and kindling had already been placed under the pot. Becky's father lit it, and the fire blazed up. The long yellow tongues of flames licked the black pot all around its fat sides. All day the man carried sap to the giant cooking pot, and the boys cut wood to keep the fire roaring. The pot began to boil, and steam from the boiling maple sap began to fill the woods. Becky, the littlest one, stood as close as the hot fire would let her. She sniffed the steam. Doesn't smell a bit like maple syrup, she said. It won't, her big brother said. Not till it gets boiled down. Not only Becky, but everyone else kept sniffing the steam. The time came when one of her brothers said, I think it's starting to smell like maple. Smell like maple? What's smelling like a maple? Did you know? I don't know. Everyone else thought so too. All her brothers and sisters, her mother and father and grandfather, and the two hired men, they all thought it was getting boiled down enough to start smelling like maple. They stayed another night in their sugar camp, and the next morning the whole woods were delicious with the wonderful smell of maple syrup happening. Maybe they have to smell all the time. Father dipped some out and let it cool, thin and golden, warm and sweet. And then they all had pancakes, salting it. As more and more of the water boiled off and went its steam, the maple syrup became thicker. Father knew just how long to let it boil. Finally, he spooned some of the boiling pot and dribbled it on the snow. As soon as it cooled enough to pick up with burning their fingers, the children were at it. They picked it up in the golden globs and stringers, sticky, chewy, delicious maple sugar candy. It will be very delicious if you just eat it on one mouth of the beginnings of the. That will be very delicious. I want to go sugar camping once. I want to go sugar camping. It's not possible. The dog got the biggest piece of all. He bit down on it with his strong jaws. He bit down on it with his strong jaws. And then the dog ran around and around in circles, shaking his head and making a funny sound in his throat. Maybe it's so delicious, so he sound like a wah! Everybody laughed and laughed. What's the matter with him? Becky, the littlest one, asked. He can't get his mouth open. her big sister said. He bit down so hard on the warm maple sugar, his teeth are stuck in it. Won't his teeth ever got unstuck? Oh, yes, there, now he's all right. Oh my gosh. Oh, really? Then you can't even speak even the humans get that. I don't think so. Then people go like this. Everyone went home tired that night and so full of maple syrup and maple sugar candy they thought they'd never want any more, but they knew they would. This has been the best maple sugar party of all. One of Becky's sisters said, You say that every year, her brother said. Well, it gets better every year, she said. I like it because the dog got stuck, Becky said. Done.